This is the Matt Report Podcast, a podcast for WordPress professionals, agencies, freelancers, consultants, users, community members. If you're interested in learning about the business side of WordPress, this is the place to be. If you're interested to have discussions, deep-rooted conversations about the community, where WordPress is going, and the business behind it all, it's mattreport.com. mattreport.com/subscribe is the number one way to stay connected. You're listening to Season 5. This portion of the Matt Report is sponsored by Beaver Builder. When you need a page builder that works effortlessly with your WordPress projects, doesn't get in the way of your team, and is a joy to use, you need Beaver Builder. Their team of passionate developers and designers have worked tirelessly to create a builder plugin that gives your WordPress website a big, comfy hug, not leaving it out in the cold. With an all-new version, including their 2.0 build plus themer capabilities just around the corner, Beaver Builder is leading the pack of page builder plugins in the WordPress space. So whether or not you need to just build a simple landing page or drag and drop the entire layout of your next marketing website project, Beaver Builder is the plugin for you. Check out their website, wpbeaverbuilder.com. That's WP, like WordPress, beaverbuilder.com. Episode number 5 in a season called Number 5. This is with Brent Jett. He is one of the guys over at Beaver Builder team spearheading the 2.0 release of Beaver Builder, and he's a bit of a hybrid. So some front end, some back end, user interface stuff, and even marketing. He's got a whole sort of well-rounded experience, and he has that because he works full-time at a digital agency down in Austin, Texas. But he's joined the Beaver Builder team to help them with this 2.0 release. So I had the chance to meet with him, talk about the product, just talk about sort of page builders in general, his approach to sort of the industry at large, and how his efforts are getting rolled into the new product. Episode marks the halfway point of Season 5. Moving forward, you will not hear my voice as the main host of the show. You will hear Corey and Sam as they take it away into the world of software as a service. Gave the keys to the Matt Report to them, spinning up a sort of a new direction for the Matt Report. There will be a bumper episode for you to listen to that will explain all of this stuff. But I thank you for listening to Season 5. Thanks for being a loyal listener. Thanks to our sponsors for making this possible. Let's dive into the show. Hey WordPress fans, this portion of the Matt Report is sponsored by Liquid Web. It's not if, but when you need improved performance, maximized uptime, and incredible support, Liquid Web is the partner you turn to. It's no secret that Liquid Web has been known as a web hosting company with a ton of plans to choose from, but they've also engineered a new managed WordPress offering perfect for mission-critical websites. And here's 2 bonuses. Number 1, every managed WordPress customer includes iThemes Sync integration, perfect for freelancers and agencies who need single-click WordPress management capabilities. And number 2, if you sign up today using this discount code MattReport33, you'll get 33% off for the next 6 months. Visit liquidweb.com/WordPress to get started. That's liquidweb.com/WordPress and use the code MattReport33 to save 33% for the next 6 months. Hey Brent, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Designer, developer by day, product designer by night, sort of just getting into the, or maybe not just getting, but in a few months, maybe almost a year, but you could tell me, in the Beaver Builder space. For folks who don't know who you are and what you do, give us that 2-minute elevator pitch. Who are you? Who are you by day, and who are you by night?
Okay. Well, so by day, I design and build websites for a digital marketing agency in Austin called Nehmedia. And then by night, I build. I'm working on the 2.0 build for Beaver Builder. Yeah.
Are you actually building? Are you actually developing and committing code to the product, or is it much more from a sort of a design and high level product concept kind of thing?
No, it's full development. You'll see a lot of my code in 2.0.
So we can blame you, right?
That's right. Oh yeah. When everybody is like, "Oh, Beaver Builder just totally lost it in 2.0. It's just not like it used to be," you can blame me.
What's the day-to-day responsibilities from a developer, somebody who is a developer slash designer, like almost like this hybrid slash, unicorn that that a lot of like agencies, like I'm an agency owner, so I'd love to find somebody who's sort of got both mixes, in their tool set. But what do the responsibilities look like for you from day to day? Are you opening up Photoshop and then slicing it up and actually doing the front end development? What does that look like?
Yeah. So at any one time, we'll have clients in different stages of their project, and so because we are a marketing agency, we'll do a kind of an audit to get things started off. And kind of get the clients through the door, get the proposal, get all that signed, and then they land on my plate. And so it's anything from that initial kind of discovery phase where we're just trying to kind of pull the the details of like the tone and what kind of content, what kind of photos to expect from them, and kind of how they see their site working out. All the way through. Going into design, doing mock-ups, spending that time to try and give them something that that they'll be happy with, and then taking them through development and site launch. So yeah, I mean, on any given day, I'll have a handful of clients, and they can be in different stages of that process.
Are you involved with the pre-sales process and sort of the onboarding of a customer?
Really, only to the degree that, like the guys who are doing that kind of stuff, they'll come and be like, "Hey, these people have this website. They've got some issues. Can you help? Can you give us some language about how do we say, okay, you need a new website because how do we say you've got this problem on your homepage, or you've got this they're usually pretty good about some of the more search related things, things to do with paid search, things to do with analytics. But when it comes to that design language of being able to say, this is why the site's not working, and this is why we think we can do something, something better for you. So I'll get a little bit involved there, but beyond that, not all that much.
There's a lot of people that listen to this show who they're freelancers, they're boutique agency owners, and of course they're product owners all in and around the WordPress space. I guess what's the biggest benefit that you've seen aside from the steady paycheck of an agency? But what are the other benefits of working with a team? There's a lot of people out there that are just like, I'm gonna go it alone. It's gonna be easy. I'm just gonna I'm gonna find all these people who need websites. I'm gonna sell them to them, and I'm gonna be living on the beach, sipping a margarita. But what are the benefits for working with a team in a company like Nehmedia?
There's so much expertise to be had, and having a website that's really working for your business, which if you're a business owner, that is the reason you have a website. Having it work for you is not an easy thing, and you hear about it all the time. A lot of times people aren't giving real concrete details, but you hear about Google's changing the rules all the time. You hear about Facebook is changing the rules all the time, and how do you plan your content calendar, and how do you keep up with what search is doing, and how do you manage your paid search effectively, and all of that. And the website is kind of this this centerpiece, right? It's this hub that is doing a lot of things for these different areas of the web that you're trying to go after your customer. And so being the single guy, I would not want to be the designer on my own unless I absolutely had to, just because there's stuff that I just don't know about, and right. I read constantly, but my expertise is always going to be design related, development related. I love that kind of stuff, but you sit me down and you want to talk about paid search, and I can do it, but that's not my area. So
sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, so you need a team, you need somebody, even if you're, kind of a do-it-yourselfer, even if you're kind of more, you want to you want to kind of deal with things yourself, you need somebody you can talk to that's going to give you kind of the more rounded perspective, and finding that in a single person is pretty tall order.
It leads me to sort of maybe just another question is how the team, how the agency you work for sort of maybe even positions that communication. Is it sort of all collected in like a Trello board, maybe an Asana account? Like how do you, and you mentioned Slack, but sort of how are those other, maybe project milestones all sort of organized and put together so that they know that you might be attacking those in the right order?
Yeah, we've tried everything. We've definitely
like
spent
a lot of us.
Our fair share. Yeah, right. We've definitely gone through our soul searching phases when it comes to tools. And to be frank, we're not great at being organized to begin with. But right now we're on kind of a Trello phase for our tasks. Let me see. We've kind of gone through, like, it's always the balance between like where do you put your kind of these little transient task things that need to get checked off, and then you also have like persistent knowledge. So like you need your knowledge base, you need your procedures and stuff like that. And so we've gone through our Evernote phase with Evernote Business, trying to share some stuff between ourselves. And I'm currently my flavor of choice right now is Dropbox Paper. If you haven't tried it, it's pretty awesome.
I've been meaning to. I saw the announcement. I just haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
It's pretty slick. I mean, it's I don't know. It's kind of somewhere in between like an Evernote and like a Word doc kind of thing, or Markdown. Like if all of that kind of had like a baby in between them, that would be Dropbox. Yeah, it's strange, but they've done a really nice job. Being able to like you're making notes, and then you can just kind of tick into a code block, and it's doing like code highlighting, and then the next thing you're doing tables, and like you can for documentation and notes and things like that, it's really, really good.
You have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I noticed the sort of little snicker in there. The last video was about a month ago. Previous to that, 4 months ago. What was sort of the thinking of launching a YouTube channel? I know it's on your blog. Yeah, what's the deal with the 6 posts?
I'll tell you. So I guess it was like September-ish of 2015. I really got on YouTube and started making just stupid videos to try and understand it. I was coming from a content marketing perspective, and we've got clients that we know that they need to break into social media. We know that content creation is kind of a passion of mine. When we talk about content marketing, you can sort of break it into two camps that are both sort of equally important. You have content creation and you have curation. And so we've spent a lot of time talking about how to get people to curate content that already exists, and also how to create new stuff. And so, obviously my background's photography and design and those kind of things. And so creation is my, that's where I live. And so I really got on YouTube just to try and work it out. I don't have too much trouble setting up, lights and microphones and things and getting it all there. But then you sit down in front of the camera and you're like, duh, what am I talking about? And so that was just kind of an exercise for me to get comfortable with it. And I actually sort of fell in love with it. But somewhere along the way there, I started working for Beaver Builder, and I got a little busy in my free time. So not to put the blame squarely on Beaver Builder, but that's just, I just kind of fell off the wagon. Well, and you saw there was a recent video of mine, it was a Beaver Builder tutorial, and all that was is I've been trying to sort of convince the guys, hey, we got to do a channel, we got to do a Beaver Builder channel, and so we I kind of prototyped out like what is that, what would a video be, how do you do something that's a little bit more than, you start with a blank layout and you drag a heading module. I mean, everybody does that. So how can we show kind of some deeper how-tos and some of the more interesting facets of Beaver Builder. But in the process, I was also working on a 2.0 complete reskin of the application. And so we're like, well, maybe we ought to just hang back on making videos until 2.0 and Themer kind of get around, because they're just going to look outdated,
Right. And the other thing is people don't realize, and that's where I was going with this stuff, is sometimes like a 5-minute video takes 3 hours, to make.
3 hours is good.
Right, and that's right, and you're absolutely right. 3 hours is a good day, and that is one thing that I have really learned. But I noticed even for for the few videos that you have up there. I mean, and this obviously comes from your photography background. Looks sharp, looks crisp. You get the nice sort of elements in the background, so that it's not such a boring sort of just the back of the wall behind you, that kind of thing.
Sure.
People could get really lost in planning this stuff out and making it look really good. So what's your advice for somebody who maybe wants to kickstart their YouTube channel, or even just a blog or any kind of content creation? What's the good balance that you found of spending time trying to figure out to get it perfect versus we just need to get this thing out the door? What's your sort of take on that?
Well, and I've had to learn kind of how to resist the perfectionist tendencies, because if I'm there, for me it is more I get more excited about the production value of the thing than I do actually sitting down, because honestly you're kind of like, oh gosh, now I have to sit down in front of the camera, what? But yeah, you kind of have to learn to resist that impulse and focus on and remember that the web is informal, right? I mean, go watch any of the kind of the top YouTubers that are kind of in vogue right now, and dial back as far as you can and check out their early videos, right? I mean, you can go check out anybody and see that their stuff today is better than their stuff was. So right. Be okay with that.
So let's shift gears to getting into how you first got into Beaver Builder. How did you first find them, and sort of what was your what was the nugget there that made you sort of say, hey, I think I'm going to contribute to these guys?
Sure. So working for the agency, we'd gotten, I don't want to say burned, but we definitely had some experiences with page builders in the past, and I won't name any names, but some builders that just really weren't ready for the kind of work that we were doing. And but it was something I guess I treat page builders as kind of an inevitability, or I always had, that eventually somebody was going to do it right. Somebody was going to get one that you could really use. And so I kept looking, and I stumbled on Beaver Builder at one point, and we kind of started using it, and I kind of got my team on board, and that was right around the time that the Slack community started, and so I started getting involved there, and I didn't know anybody. I've been working with WordPress for years, but not that much exposure into WordPress community apart from reading the core blog and stuff. But I just ended up kind of getting involved there, and trying to jump in and answer some questions when people have kind of like code level questions. Like, oh, okay, I know how to do that. Because I'm kind of a tinkerer. Any plugin that's got filters running around through it, I'm going to go find them and see what I can do with it. So yeah, at some point I had done a project like kind of an alternate template panel for Beaver Builder, and I was trying some stuff. I wanted to be able to categorize them differently, and I had kind of big dreams of like a sort of kind of store type thing where you could kind of pull templates from different sites, kind of like a peer-to-peer template store, if that makes any sense. And so somewhere along the way I had showed it to Justin or Robbie or somebody, and that conversation just kind of started, and that project sort of fell by the wayside during the process. But last, I guess January of 2016, Justin came and said, hey, we want to do this theme builder project. Really don't know what it is yet. But do you want to come and do some design work for it? And I was like, sure, that product design, that sounds awesome. Um, and I figured it was going to be like 2-3 weeks of wireframes, and then we'd be like, okay, thanks, and here we are. It's been over a year, and I'm still here.
That's good.
It's just like there just kept being more projects, and obviously Themer continued, and we worked on kind of the conceptual parts of that for quite a while before Justin really started building it in earnest, and that morphed into a swag project here, and we started talking about 2.0, and I think there were some affiliate banners in there somewhere. I don't know. I've done a bunch of projects for them at this point.
Something that I've been talking about for a while now is the fragmentation of WordPress, and not from sort of the core code of it, and is it a web app or a blogging platform, that kind of thing, but the fragmentation of the experience of WordPress, like the editor versus the front end versus the customizer. And now, because page builders are getting so much more popular, folks are starting to experience page builders or building their website the way that these page builders want their customers to interact. So not necessarily in the same toe with the design of WordPress even, right? So you might have a totally different customizer experience in Beaver Builder than you do in WordPress Customizer.
Sure.
And now with blocks coming into core WordPress, there'll be this whole other new interface for people to learn and experience. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that, and what kind of attention do you give to that kind of experience?
Yeah, with the experience design stuff, I don't know that I think about it that way particularly. I know I spend a lot of time thinking about maybe what's the WordPress way to do this, because it's this, you want to do something that's better, right? You're trying to bring this idea that you have into existence, but at the same time, whatever you're building should reflect the platform appropriately. When was the last time you pulled up an app on your phone, and if you've got an iPhone, you pulled up the app and you're like, oh my gosh, this was totally designed for Android. Or if you pulled it up on Android and you're like, oh my gosh, this was totally designed for iPhone, right? Because they don't look like the platform. They don't fit, and the design doesn't pay the right respects to the platform while still creating this new experience, right? And I feel that way with WordPress too, that to a degree you kind of have to ignore it and say, okay, well, we're doing this front end thing, and we just have to kind of come up with the best possible experience, and just to heck with whatever's going on in the admin. But then at the same time, can they talk to each other? Can you have a design language between them that still says, yeah, we're kind of tipping our hat to WordPress at the same time, and we're gonna you'll in 2.0 you'll see a lot of color choices that are derived directly from the the official color guidelines for WordPress. Mm-hmm. It's those little hat tips of kind of like, in what ways can we make this feel natural, but we're going to give you what we think the best experience is for what you're doing, because ultimately that's the most important thing.
Yeah. How does one sort of balance the maybe user feedback or user surveying, that kind of thing, to really understand how a user wants to use something, right? Where, basically what I'm saying is, like, we sit down as a team and we're building this product, but sometimes it's maybe just the three of us and we're talking about, it's just us and it's our ideas. We haven't field tested this. We haven't asked for any kind of feedback. So how do you balance that? Like, we know what we're going to put in this because our gut feeling is that this feature or function is going to be great, versus let's maybe test this out a little bit with somebody. How does that work with what you're doing?
It is a balance. Balance is the right word, because it is a combination of those two. You can't completely invalidate yourself and just kind of do some user testing, right? Send out some builds, or, if it's a site, you can, there's some pretty cool services where you can say, I want, 5 people to try and do these tasks and see if they can, see what happens. you need that data. You definitely need that data, and that, that's what your alpha period's for, to kind of tell you where people are getting hung up, because it's somewhere that you would never have gotten hung up. But on the flip side of that, you also are hopefully creating something that doesn't exist yet, and you kind of have to trust yourself a little bit too, that just like, it's kind of like, okay, just wait and see, because I promise this is, we have something for you and you're going to like it. Just kind of bear with me for a second, Yeah.
You're obviously going through those phases now.
Yeah.
Have you started to, let's see, at the time of this recording, we are mid to late February. Have you started to sort of trickle out any 2.0 releases yet and started to get feedback from that, or is that still sort of all under wraps right now?
We've trickled it out. Obviously, the internal team has access to it, and we've been getting feedback there. And there are a few people around with access to it. We've also been dropping some screenshots as we go along, and anybody that's kind of paid attention to the Facebook group or the Slack group over time, you'll see that it's actually gone through quite a few iterations from where we started. If you pull up the original screenshots, we were like, this is what 2.0 is going to be doing, and it doesn't look anything like that now. It's totally different. So there's been some heavy iteration just to kind of work through starting with, like, how do we where we started was how do we improve this thing, how do we organize it better and everything, and kind of going way out to a totally different UI for it. And then what we've ultimately come to is sort of this kind of in-between that we think is going to be the best middle ground.
Have you learned any sort of lessons in this that you can share with the audience from building a software interface, something that maybe you thought going into it was going to be super easy, but now you sort of realize, oh boy, that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, and maybe they can take away from that?
Well, I'll tell you, Beaver Builder was a lot more complex of an application than it seemed to me a year ago, for certain. It's and implementing a UI. I mean, I always try to kind of boil it down to, at the end of the day, it's just views, right? And somehow the data is gonna get figured out somewhere, logically, and then ultimately all I have to do is put views on the screen, and it's complicated. You definitely, it's hard to answer. You need a balance between that kind of the aesthetic, where you can walk up and say, okay, no, that's not right. I got to change that. I've got to change the spacing or the color or whatever, and kind of the math of it. But they both have to be there, right? With a website, I feel like we kind of get away with being sloppy. You can kind of design a page, and if your spacing or if your colors or whatever, if you go to another page and it's not quite the same, you can get away with it. When you're doing an application, you really have to have a logical system to your interface, right? Your buttons kind of all have to be what you expect, and your spacing kind of has to make sense, and your font choices kind of have to make sense and all that. But at the same time, you can't let the math completely rule what you're doing. You still have to look at it and go, yeah, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't, the math says this should be right next to the edge, but it doesn't feel like it's supposed to be right next to the edge. So you got to go back and figure out how to bring that together where, it's ultimately, it's a human product at the end.
Right. Right. I mean, and arguably on I guess typical marketing website or product website, there's a whole heck of a lot less buttons to be clicking on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're not sort of cramming in all these things. And I guess that is the nature of a page builder, regardless of Beaver Builder or, say, Divi or Elementor or Site Origin. There's just a lot of options because that's just the nature of that product, is to sort of give you that control. Have you found yourself maybe fighting that aspect of it, or maybe recommending to the Beaver Builder guys, hey, maybe we shouldn't put in all these options? Has there ever been a scenario like that sort of crop up in the 2.0 process?
Well, there's always I think there's always a balance of like, just how many just how many fields should a module have, right? I mean, if you put in styling fields are a great example. Like, people are always asking for more and more styling fields. But you kind of know at your core, like, well, that's kind of the wrong answer, right? I mean, because if you're just styling one-off stuff, right, you're just styling that heading here, and you're going to go to another page and you're going to style the heading again, and you might not style it exactly the same. Well, we kind of know that's bad, right?
Right.
That's why style sheets exist. We want to have shared stuff. And so, yeah, I think there are definitely features that you could build, or maybe even that we have built, that they add power and flexibility, but in the wrong hands, they can also lead to just a big crazy mess, and nobody wants that.
Right.
That's part of the bad rap that page builders have had before, is that they introduce clutter. I'm always kind of trying to keep WordPress as organized as possible.
So I'm curious to sort of get your feedback on, as Beaver Builder matures and there's more features being put in, not only by your own team and the team at Beaver Builder, but just from requests coming in, and now with Beaver Themer sort of right around the corner, there's just a whole heck of a lot more going into the product. It's making it much more feature-packed. It's getting a lot more powerful. And I know from my own product, Conductor, having a product or a plugin that can really empower somebody to do some complex things without having to write code, it means that you start adding a lot more sort of, maybe steps isn't the right word, but a whole different kind of thinking process sort of has to happen. Like, somebody can't just plow through it and build a website. They have to take a step back and understand the workflow to build the site that they want with your tool, right? They sort of have to bend towards that and get that learning curve under their belt. How has that sort of process been affected, or how have you approached that as this plugin gets a lot more powerful but has a lot more sort of features packed in under the hood?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, well, you see it with new products, right? You see when somebody flocks to, we'll talk about Elementor for a second, right? It's a new page builder, and it's had a lot of people flock to it. And you kind of have to look at it then and ask why. Why are they choosing that one, or why are they choosing this other product, or whatever? And some of it is going to be simplicity, right? And so when you have a product that you could argue is more advanced, although I'm not necessarily making that comparison with Elementor, but when you have a product where you've poured in features, there is a threshold to where if it seems cumbersome, if it seems heavy, and granted, all of that is maybe just in somebody's imagination, right? If they perceive that it's not going to be as performant because it has all these features, versus, I'll go use this simple thing because obviously it's lighter weight. That stuff, we've certainly seen that happen over the years in WordPress with the whole super theme concept, right? When people are building themes that just have levers and knobs coming out everywhere, some of them actually have been poor performing, but some of them have just seemed like they were. Yeah. And so I think there's a balance of that where you've got to continue to develop something. Obviously, you don't want your product to go stagnant, but it's always got to seem, like it's got to still be simple. It's got to still be friendly to the first-time user and people that aren't pros digging into all those advanced features.
How are you going to match up? And maybe this is still way too early on, and maybe you haven't. I know you said you've tabled at least maybe some of the discussion of the YouTube channel and things like that. But I feel that the onboarding experience for 95, maybe even 98%, and myself included, the onboarding experience for WordPress plugins, software, commercial software, is mediocre at best, right? Mediocre at best, partly because of the the ecosystem that we're in. Everybody has a different WordPress site. They're on different hosts. Getting them to install the plugin or adding that to your plugin for a solid onboarding system is not as easy as let's say if it were a SaaS-based business. But maybe how are you sort of looking at that? Do you have any approach that you're going to be doing for 2.0 that might be sort of out of the box, or is sort of content and training material the best foot forward that most people can do to get this stuff solved?
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, with any feature or any product, you've kind of got to look at everything you're working on, how much value is it going to bring, and that first time experience is super important, but the second and third and fourth time experience is really important too, right? I mean, you've got people who go from being a first time user to a professional with your product, and so you got to figure out a balance between the two where where you're not getting in the way, right? You're not doing so much that's for the first time user that then it becomes kind of a kind of a thing you've got to hide because it becomes irritating for the people that use it all the time. Yeah. But yeah, that first time experience, it is hard in WordPress, especially with plugins. I mean, you see plugins all the time that, as soon as you activate them, they want to take you to their welcome screen. Well, what happens when you activate 3 plugins at once? Who wins? Right. So there's not a, the experience of starting out with new software in WordPress is definitely got some rough spots. I don't know. I don't have anything novel there, but I just think you want to try and do your best to get inside that first time person's head, right? Figure out where they are. What is it they're trying to do? Because more often than not, somebody is trying a new product because they just want to get this thing done, right? They have something that they're already, is kind of already in their mind. They're not just sitting back and I think I'll try a new page builder today. Right. You know what I mean? Like they're like, I just need to get this stinking website done so that I can go on and do the things that I was supposed to do today. Right. And so I think you have to kind of try and focus on that and not just, I don't know. It kind of, honestly, sometimes the tours at the beginning of like phone apps kind of bug me because it's like, no.
Yeah, because you're just like swiping, like, come on, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like why do I have to go through 5 pages of here's how you do stuff, and you're not even showing me the application yet, right?
Right.
I feel the exact same way. Oh, don't get me started on like the animated or hand drawn intro videos.
Right.
I am the biggest opponent to those videos. I hate them because it's like you haven't even shown me a screenshot of your product yet. Like, I'm not going to sit through 2 to 5 minutes of you being like, when you have this bad day and you really want to, and I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's the worst because people are just trying to get to that thing that they already have in their mind. And so you need an onboarding way that like gets them there as fast as possible.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that's always sort of running in the back of my mind, and it's, if I were much more of a sort of like historian type of person, or maybe even a true artist, I'd kind of point to, just the way that this industry has evolved. And if you think back to like even 5 years ago when SaaS really started to become a thing, and that's software as a service, or even just selling software and that kind of thing, where I shouldn't say it became a thing, it just became a lot more accessible for people to do this, right? So from indie developers to non-tech people to be able to launch a software business, they sort of turned to those as, the de facto way to explain. Like, these indie developers were like, well, I hate talking to people. I'm not good in front of a camera, so I'm just going to outsource to this thing to make me like this hand-drawn intro. And it just sort of, it became one of those things like squeeze pages. They all have the 24-hour countdown timers, right? And it's like, if you don't register now, you're going to miss out on all this great content. I think that sort of marketing content, while it worked, again, 4 or 5 years ago, it's just one of those things that we've all been exposed to for so long. It's just like, I'm sick of it, right?
Yeah.
Do something a little bit better. But I guess also to say, if you have nothing, and you're just starting out, and that's what you can do right now, then I guess by all means do it. But just understand that in a competitive world, again, especially if like most of you are in the WordPress world, if you're launching another contact form or if you're launching another page builder, do something else, because you're going to need to, because the competition and the stakes are so much higher.
Well, and it kind of goes back to the whole YouTube thing of getting started and not getting too hung up on, being ultra professional right out of the gate. There's never going to be anything better than showing the product, right? Nobody's going to come up with a better way for you to get your product across to somebody than for you to show it. So, rather than sending off to have some illustrator or, group of guys from wherever do some sort of animated thing that's going to make you sit around, just, pull up QuickTime and do a screencast and say, this is what we made and we think it's important and we hope you like it, and just move on.
How long do you think those videos should be? That sort of first impression explainer video. I mean, I guess what's your tolerance for sitting through a video, and what do you recommend?
Well, so you do have to measure it based on where you're going to post it. And that just from the kind of daytime marketing agency experience with this, if YouTube people have a higher tolerance for videos or for video length than Facebook. I think when it's somebody sitting on your homepage trying to watch a video to figure out what is this that you're trying to give them or show them, I think you gotta. I don't know that it necessarily depends so much on how long the video is. I think it depends on how long it takes you to explain to them what it is and why it's valuable to them. And
that's a good point.
In my opinion, you got to hook their interest in the first 20, 30 seconds or faster. You got to get. I see YouTube videos all the time where somebody's doing a tutorial for some kind of thing, and they spend a solid minute talking about what they're going to show you.
Right.
and I'm just like, okay, I skip ahead until I see a screenshot, because you know what I mean? Because it's like, no, that's not what I came here for.
Exactly.
Like, just do what you're going to do. And so that's kind of a pet peeve. It's especially coming from sort of a marketing background of, if you're doing an ad, like if you're doing a YouTube ad or a Facebook ad or whatever, it's got to be like 5 seconds and they're hooked,
right?
Or else they're going to skip it, right?
Right.
So I think that's, for me, when we're talking about video content especially, it really has to move as fast as possible, without seeming kind of rushed.
Right.
But yeah, you got to get straight into it.
Yeah, I mean, the other day we have another plugin, and it's called Easy Support Videos, and what it is just a way for somebody to embed videos in the admin of WordPress. So if you're a consultant, cool, and you're making these videos for people to train them on their site, you can just embed that right into the WordPress dashboard, and people can watch it right there. So, we recently released a pro add-on, which is just like a white labeling. You can white label it, change the names of it, all that stuff, reorder it, put all these other pages in it. And I swear to God, this goes back to what we said before. It took me 1 hour to record a 4-minute video because I was trying to get it as fast and succinct as possible. And I told Scott, my lead developer, I'm like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get an explainer video done in 2 minutes. Like, that's my goal. And I couldn't. I just couldn't get there. It took 4 minutes. That was as short as I could get it. Because I think the first video I ran through was 12 minutes. I was like, what the hell is this? I'm not going to make a 12-minute explainer video. I made it, recorded again, and I finally got down to 2 minutes. It is definitely something that is, for people, again, who are thinking about doing this themselves. Takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of, bumps and bruises, and you'll get there and you'll get better at it. Just be aware, right? It might not have to be perfect, but just be aware of it, that kind of thing.
The whole one take thing is so tricky. And, I don't think, for me, I don't try and do things in one take anymore. I used to, it's too hard. The timing's too hard. And, then suddenly your internet connection speed drops and you're looking at progress bars and it's just like, okay, what happened here? I'm a big cheater when it comes to videos. Especially with screencasts, my big thing is pause as much as you want, but whenever you do, don't scroll or move the mouse. That way you can chop it out.
Right.
And like those progress loaders, you click on something, you're going to load for a second, and then you're going to continue. Just like go silent and let the progress indicator do its thing. And then when it clears, move on with your video, because then you can come back and chop it out. And I'll totally do that. So if you're ever looking at any of my like tutorial videos and you're like, wow, Beaver Builder loads really fast for you. It does. But I'm also a big cheater.
Nice. Brent, this has been a great conversation, sort of learning who you are, what you're doing, especially what you're doing with Beaver Builder and sort of all these other tips and tricks for the developer designer in all of us. Where can folks find you on the web to say thanks? That was another episode of The Matt Report. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of it. It means a lot when somebody actually learns something from the conversations that I have here, either personal gains or business gains, whatever it might be, just learning your way in the crazy world of WordPress. That's why I do it. I couldn't do it without my audience. I couldn't do it without my sponsors as well. So please go ahead and thank the sponsors. Use the services that I've mentioned in these episodes. I really vet them and make sure that they're only putting out good products with great support, and they really care about the WordPress community. That's why I've chosen them. So it means a lot if you go ahead on Twitter and tell them that you heard them on the Matt Report podcast. As always, mattreport.com/subscribe to join the mailing list. It's the #1 way to stay connected. I send private videos there to my newsletter. It's really becoming much more than just a boring old newsletter, so I hope I can see you over there. And the best thing that you can do for the show is head on over to iTunes, search for WordPress Podcast, leave me a 5-star review if you enjoy the episode. I'd really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next episode.